So my first video that was about 24 minutes was just kind of opening up the breathing muscles, and so I'm gonna do some practice, some flow. I teach a style called Vinyasa Flow, and I'm gonna talk you through it, and sometimes I'm not gonna be doing it so that you can do it and I can actually face the camera and capture my voice. But I will try to put as many photos and demo the poses so that if you have any question at all, you'll know that you're doing the right thing. But also, like, really trust that it's gonna feel good, and feeling good is the right thing. So we were in downward facing dog in the last one. So start there. And again, if you aren't quite sure how to do downward facing dog, it's like you're stretching your back body. And if you don't have a dog that actually really does downward facing dog, I will put some pictures for sure in here where we're talking about downward facing dog. And if anything, if it feels like you have a lot of weight in your wrists, shift your chest towards your thighs. So a lot of times people will start downward facing dog like this. Notice the positioning of my shoulders is actually quite much more like this, where the chest is towards the legs. Notice the sit bones are lifting up, and feel like you're making an inverted V. So in your mind's eye, you're in downward facing dog. Press the hands, chest towards your legs, lift the sit bones, and you'll feel a lot more stretch in your back of the legs, hamstrings. And what feels really good about downward facing dog is it inverts your spine. So usually we're upright, so our low back actually gets a lot of compression. So not only are we upright when we're seated, when we're standing, when we're moving around, but most of the day we're in this position where our spine is compressed at the base. And if there's any imbalances in our hips, or if we always put our weight on one side, that's gonna shift the low back so it's uneven, and that'll continue on even if you think that you're walking and you're no longer in that position. Like, our body is a pattern of habits. It's a amalgamation of a lot of habits. And interestingly, and again, this is how I teach yoga, is our life is an amalgamation of habits. And so yoga is actually this way of kind of retraining the body to get back to neutral and to practice good and different habits that put the spine and the body back to neutral, and to decompress where we have a lot of pressure. So downward facing dog actually helps to decompress the spine. So from downward facing dog, lift your right leg back and up, step the foot forward and just stay low in a lunge. What I like to do here is I actually like to really activate the back heel, press it towards the wall behind you. And so I'm gonna look away from the camera because my right leg is forward. I'm gonna look over my right shoulder. So look over your right shoulder, and if it's away from the screen, keep listening. Keep activating the left heel, press it back. Think about lifting the back of your left knee, so that the crease behind your knee, lift it up. It's pretty intense because this hip flexor is usually contracted most of the day because we're seated, we're walking. This muscle that you're feeling stretch is a muscle that is usually contracted or contracting. So it's a really nice opportunity to let that release. And then also just let it lengthen, because that continues on, like where we need to breathe into in the body. So it feels really good. And then just step back to down dog. And when you're in down dog, you'll feel how one side, the left side, feels a lot more light than the right side. And that's why we'll do the other side. So go ahead and inhale, lift the left leg back and up. And then step the foot forward. You can just be on your fingertips. You can also, just wanted to reach for my blocks, have blocks under your hands, or just have just like lift yourself up if it feels too much. What you don't want to do is just put all your weight onto your thigh. Like that will take away a lot of the stretch. But if you can just have your fingertips on the ground, activate your right heel. And so I'm looking at the camera and I can look over my left shoulder and add a lot more intensity. And like I was saying, you want to be in the poses so it feels like something's happening. Like yoga is all about change and changing, like from our kind of sleepy self to our awake self, from our stagnant energy to more active energy. Like we're really, yoga is about change. So feel something, feel like you're making space, activate your right heel, lift the back of the right knee, and then just breathe deeply. Close your eyes and just breathe. You want to feel like you're breathing in these poses. That's not something that we always remember to do, and I always feel like I'm just repeating and repeating and repeating, like breathe, breathe, inhale, exhale. And I remember, like, I mean, it had been like 15 years that I've been practicing, and I was in a class with my yoga teacher, and she just said breathe, and it was almost like I had heard it for the first time. So I just continue to remind people to breathe, because when we're in the pose, a lot of times our mind is either wandering, like we're in the pose, I call it like we go through the motions, or we're just like really like feeling very focused on the sensation. But you want to be able to multitask in our mind in the most precise way, in the most masterful way. And what I mean by that is like be in the pose in a way that makes space and creates opening and a deeper breath, and breathe. And those two things, like you'd be surprised that just doing those two things, being in your body and breathing, can really, that's our doorbell. Okay, so we're just doing this left side lunge, and I usually like to stay like 5 to 10 breaths, to tell you the truth. When you just do like a few seconds in a pose, you really don't get the kind of space that leaves your body different. And like I said, it's all about change. And you know, it's really about like we are different every day, and we're moving towards evolution. Like the worst thing is going to be like you're showing up year after year doing the same thing and being the same person. Like really see what part of you needs to change. Okay, so step back to downward facing dog. Lift up through the hips. Really feel like the chest moves towards your thighs. And then inhale forward to plank. So you might move the feet back more. You might feel like your shoulders are right over your wrists. And then just exhale back to downward facing dog. Do that a few times so you start to feel how to shift weight on your arms. And again, you can use a yoga mat. It's totally fine. If you don't have a yoga mat or you're using a different kind of exercise mat, just shift back and forth. Really feeling the weight shifting from the arms to the legs. And then next time you're here to downward facing dog, go ahead and walk your feet forward. Inhale, come halfway up. You can have the hands against your shins, lifting the chest. And then just exhale into a forward fold, up to standing, sweeping the arms. I don't know if my camera's gonna catch me. And then exhale, hands come down. So you're back to the front of your mat. I'll just talk you through this. Go ahead and just close your eyes. Standing tall, make space around your shoulders. Let the ears drop away. Let the shoulders drop away from your ears. Make some space in your neck. Imagine that golden thread lifting up through the crown of the head. And then you actually get longer. Inhale, sweep the arms up like you're touching the ceiling. And then on the exhalation, just dive down into a forward fold. Soften your knees. So again, just listen to my voice. You can look at me. I'm not actually doing the pose right now, but just soften your knees a lot. When you do that, so here I am in this pose, when you soften the knees a lot, it disengages the hamstrings. And so you can release your low back. And I'm saying, like, we're usually upright. So to really decompress and stretch the low back can feel really, really good. And, you know, again, like this back body is the part of us we don't see. And there's a lot of stuff we store in our back body energetically, or, you know, just tension. So to release that is such a relief to the body, to the nervous system, to being able to feel good 2 hours from now. So this is why we do this kind of work. And then from here, from the forward fold, go ahead and inhale halfway up. So hands against the shins, lifting the chest. And then look about 10 inches out in front. So I'm kind of pointing at the above my feet right now. Look out there. Don't look straight ahead across the room. Look out in front, about 10 inches in front of your feet. So that lengthens the spine. And then step back to plank. Go ahead and set the knees down this first time, and then lower like a push-up, but go all the way to the ground. And then go ahead and take the fingers out to either side of the chest. I'm going to face the camera so you can see what I'm doing. So you're going to have the hands on either side of the chest, and then just push yourself up. So as you're here, notice you lengthen the front side. It should feel so good to really lengthen the front side, because again, usually these muscles are just holding us in place, kind of like a corset. And when you lengthen, you actually make space for more breath, and you make space for your organs. And then go ahead and exhale and lower, and then push back to the hands and the knees. So you're back to the hands and the knees. I'm going to go back to the same way I was. And then go ahead and round the back into the cat's pose, like a Halloween cat. Round the back, like you're dropping your chin to your chest, like you're looking towards your thighs. And then inhale, broaden the collarbones, and then lift the sit bones. So exhale, round the back, tuck the chin, let the head, crown of the head aim towards the ground. And then inhale and broaden and smile. And then inhale here, so you're broadening the collarbones. Feel like you're aiming the crease of the elbows out. And then exhale, round. And then make your way, inhale back to lifting the chest, broadening the collarbones, and then exhale back to downward facing dog. So as you're here, look at your feet. I'm going to talk to the camera so you can hear. So you're in downward facing dog. Look towards your feet. Feel like your heels are going heavy. So you'll feel a stretch in your Achilles, in your calves. And then imagine there's a rubber band around your ankles, and you're trying to spread the rubber band wider. So what that does, it activates the lower part of your ankles. Imagine the inner calves drawing back, and then you feel a lot more sensation in the back of the legs. And it feels really good, again, to open muscles that are usually weight-bearing or getting us somewhere. So fast walking or running or whatever, and just stretching those muscles, releasing tension, and just being able to breathe and feel that decompression of the spine. Inhale, lift the right leg back and up, and then exhale, step it between the hands. And you might have to, you know, take the leg with your hands and help it forward. That's totally fine. And then this time, go ahead and take the hands to your right thigh, and then inhale, lifting up. So as you're here, we call this a high lunge, and I'll do it facing the camera so you can see it. But as you're here, back knee can be on the ground or it can be down, either one. And again, feel like you're trying to touch the ceiling on the next floor up. So it's not just arms are up, but actually lift up. Like feel like you're lifting the upper body off the lower body. And then aim your right knee forward and your left heel back, so you get that feeling of strength and opposition. It actually creates some stability to work in opposition. And then take another breath, like you're trying to fill every crevice of your body with breath. And then on your exhalation, hands down, step back to plank. And then look forward. Feel free to set the knees down. Feel free to go all the way down. Or like a push-up, go halfway down. And then inhale, lift the chest. And don't look at the screen, look forward. But I'm going to look at the screen and just let the hands press, lift through the chest. Breathe into the lower abdomen. So that area really helps. It helps to give space to your organs. Take a very deep breath into that space. And then as you exhale, into down dog. and then you're back to that inverted V. And I'm actually like taking my time, like explaining all these things, even though some of you might be used to this, but just because I know that a lot of people are just starting yoga, and in my future videos I won't go into much detail. So we'll do the other side. Inhale, lift the left leg back and up, like you're touching the top of the wall behind you, and then help or step the foot forward, and then hands to your left thigh. Inhale, lift the arms up, and then take your gaze upward, not necessarily to your hands, maybe to like you're looking across the room and towards the top of the wall, but that gives you a little bit more space here and lightens the weight off of the base of our torso, and that gives you a little bit more space in your between your organs to breathe. And then when you're taking really deep breaths, remember that really deep breathing that we do. I call it the extraordinary breath. And I really try to make every breath and every moment extraordinary. And that's been my work in yoga, is to really like work on the small moments of life, then making them really extraordinary. But for you, in this moment, just make this next breath really expansive and extraordinary and light. And then on your next exhalation, take both hands down, and then just step back to downward facing dog. If you'd like to come forward to plank for what we call a vinyasa, forward to plank as you inhale. Exhale, lower, halfway down or all the way. Knees can be on the floor. Inhale into upward facing dog. Make sure it feels like your shoulders are away from your ears. And then exhale, push back to down dog. And then lifting the heels, lift the sit bones. And then on your next exhalation, finish the exhalation, walk the feet to the front of your mat. You'll be in a forward fold. Inhale, lengthen the spine halfway up. Hands can be on your shins. And then exhale, torso to your thighs. Just soften your eyes. Be grateful that you're here. Thank you for showing up for you. And then big breath. Inhale, up to standing. Sweep the arms like you're touching the ceiling. And then as you exhale, hands come down. Just close the eyes. Soften the gaze if that feels better. Relax your jaw. Feel like there's a lot of space on the front side of your body, on the back side of your body. Really think about like who or why you practice, who you practice for, like who needs you to be your best self today, who needs you to show up in your best energy, even if it's going to be on a Zoom call, or even if it's going to be a phone call, or you're writing a letter, like who needs you to be your best? What project are you working on that needs your very best energy? Like that is what you remember as you practice, not like you're planning that, but just remember like, oh, like my kids really need me to show up. Or, oh, you know, my client needs my very clearest thoughts. Like that is how we practice for a very powerful life off the mat. So I'm going to stop here. We did one, what we call a sun salutation, and flow, and I'll continue with a little bit more flow in the next video. Thanks.